And I woke up one morning and all hell had broken loose, and I started receiving text messages from everywhere, and I didn't really know what I had done wrong.
Greetings, y'all, and welcome to Seek Things Above TV. I'm your host, Lou Ciccone. So today we're going to take a look at this clip where Keion Henderson and Jamal Bryant sat down to talk about a number of issues. But the clip that we are concerned about today is how Keion mentions in here and seems to display that he still does not get why people were upset about how he handled the $4 million request. Okay, so we're going to get into that in a second. If y'all like content like this, y'all know what to do. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. Do the stuff that lets YouTube know that you like content like this. All right, so without further ado, let's hop right into it.
You lost your church in a hurricane, and the world didn't stop. They made you an abused wife in an apostolic church and blamed you for complaining.
Yeah.
From the get-go, you see Jamal Bryant trying to paint this picture for Keion of a victim in this whole situation, right? So even equating Keion to an abused wife, which is really reckless, kind of talk that he's using here, man. I mean, the two, there's just no equivalence or any comparison between the two, but that's the depths that he's willing to go to try to make Keion looked like a victim in this whole situation. But let's keep going with this video.
How did you're not charged with arson today from the Houston Police Department.
Not so far.
Not so far. The insurance agency is not saying Keion has dismantled this church by himself.
Yeah.
The storm is in the AccuWeather report. How did you keep your mind knowing this is not a Ponzi scheme? You're not trying to move and go to the Virgin Islands. You're trying to rebuild a church.
Jay.
And you weren't at Walmart. You became the manager of Target. Everywhere for wanting to rebuild a church. Tell me, do you then say, oh man, because they attacking me, let me just leave the church empty?
At first I was like, be honest with you, I was like, what did I do wrong? I couldn't figure it out. I literally couldn't figure it out. Because in March, on our first Fruit Sunday, the ask was the year. We said either $20.25 or $225, and the church responded. It was our big give Sunday. It was the largest give Sunday we had all year. I had been talking to our church about renovating the building anyway. This is a capital campaign that was already in motion. But because our church was displaced and we didn't have a place to meet, I spoke to them through the internet because I didn't have a church to gather them in to tell them.
Right.
So I posted it to send to them.
So he keeps defaulting to this position, okay? Like, hey, the church knew about this request that we had. The church knew that we were trying to rebuild the sanctuary. The church knew all these things. This conversation had been going on for a minute. So he defaults to that in every situation where he's asked about this. And nobody is disputing that. Nobody has an issue with whatever conversations he had with his church. He still does not simply get the point that we people in the body of Christ have an issue with him using the name of God and saying that it is God who told him to ask for the $4 million. It is God who told him that the amount of money would be reached in a certain amount of days, and that never happened. And it is God who told him after that that he would switch, and now he said, I hear God telling me by Thanksgiving. Well, listen, Thanksgiving is coming along very soon, and according to the reports of what we have, that has been given thus far, they're nowhere near that number. So this is clearly not coming from God, and that is the issue that he does not see. The people have an issue primarily with that first. I mean, there's other aspects of it that we're going to get into in a second, but that is the primary issue, is that you are claiming that it was God who instructed you to do all these things, yet we can clearly see that it wasn't. This was a plan that you devised, that you came up with. It was pre-planned, and now with the disaster, it became an opportunity for you to fulfill that plan. And so that is the main issue that folks have a problem with. But let's keep going on with this video clip.
And I woke up one morning and all hell had broken loose, and I started receiving text messages from everywhere, and I didn't really know what I had done wrong.
Right.
That's where I started. So I first started off confused, regretful. Steve Harvey told me, he said, regret is the most worthless emotion in the earth.
Wow. Wow.
So I was regretful. Then I started bouncing back like, wait a minute, hold on. I didn't ask for this for me.
Right.
I did this because I had intel. I knew the shortfall of what the insurance claim would be. By the way, the insurance and adjuster just came to our church Tuesday.
No way.
So I don't know when this will air.
Right.
They just came Tuesday. I walk in the church.
Remember that he said when he asked for the $4.4 million that he didn't know that that's what it was going to amount to, right? Y'all remember that he said that, okay, no, he asked for that number and he didn't know that that was the total of the giving that he had requested. Okay. Now he is saying that he had intel. He had intel and he had this prior knowledge of how much things were going to cost and yada, yada, yada. And that is how he arrived at what he arrived at. So this is contradicting his prior statements of him saying that he didn't know, like the amount was just the amount. It wasn't, it was almost as though he just had this. Again, maybe this is what, quote unquote, the Lord put on his heart and he just spoke about that amount. But now he is clearly saying that he knew that that was a requirement, that was the amount that was needed. But hold on to that and let's keep going as he continues to speak here.
So I don't know when this will air.
Right.
They just came Tuesday. I walk in the church. This is documentable and true. Yeah. I walked in the church Tuesday to look at the gymnasium to see how they were going to set up for our first Sunday back.
Yeah.
The insurance agent and the adjuster are in the building, let in by facilities. Unbeknownst to me, I don't know they're there.
Right.
Walk in. I see the guys over there with the pens, say, hey, gentlemen, Keion Henderson. They said, oh, Pastor. It said, oh, we just finished talking bad about you. This is what they said. Yeah. I said, don't feel bad. I've been talking about y'all since June. I've been talking.
He really did not speak well of this insurance company. And I don't know why he was doing that. It actually was, in a lot of ways, it felt very un-Christ-like the way he was speaking about this insurance company. It's as though he had prior dealings with them, like they had faced other calamities, other disasters, and the insurance company had not coughed up the money or something like that. But it seems like he was doing all this in order to put some pressure on them so that when they do come through, they would act favorably towards them. And it just seemed very unnecessary the way he was speaking about this insurance company. I mean, if you're a man of God, you are a person who believes firmly in God operating and doing things in a way that is going to work out the best possible outcome for you as a believer, then he should have been more gracious in the way he was speaking about it. In fact, to be honest, some of it felt like defamation. Like at some point, if you were the CEO of this insurance company, you might just say, you know what, we're going to sue this guy for defaming us before we even work with them. But let's carry on and see what he has to say as the video goes on.
Right.
Walk in. I see the guys over there with the pens, say, we'll set up for our first Sunday back.
Yeah.
The insurance agent and the adjuster are in the building, let in by facilities. Unbeknownst to me, I don't know they're there.
Right.
Walk in. I see the guys over there with the pens, say, hey, gentlemen, Keion Henderson. They said, oh, Pastor. It said, oh, we just finished talking bad about you. This is what they said. Yeah. I said, don't feel bad. I've been talking about y'all since June. I've been talking bad about y'all since July 8th when the hurricane happened.
Right.
I've been talking bad about y'all the whole time because we gotta get to the finish line on this.
Right.
There's no doubt what happened here.
Right.
The storm did this.
Right.
And that man looked at me and he said, this Tuesday, he said, we're going to treat you better than you've been talking about us.
Wow. Wow.
He should have been ashamed at that point, actually. He should have been ashamed and even repented for the way he was speaking about them at that point.
So I had to build a case with them to let them know we were not going to deal with unfair treatment.
Yeah.
That you were not going to find a way to scapegoat this. And anybody who knows anything about insurance, their job is to make the premium high and the payout low. That's the only way you stay in business.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were struggling to figure out what's the shortfall because what they were going to give us wouldn't even get us back what we had. So the shortfall was the ask.
Yeah.
Hindsight, what I would have done is I would have, number one, been a little more sensitive about the ask in the time we were in because the members were recovering as well.
Right.
Since we didn't have a large portion of our church members coming and saying that they needed assistance, it didn't compute to me that we had anyone struggling.
Right.
Number two, I would have cut the cameras off and just talked to our church individually.
Mm-hmm.
So Keion clearly shows some cognitive dissonance in this handling of this situation. The mere fact that it took him this long to reflect and to think upon how they should have actually, first of all, checked on the congregation to see how they were doing before asking for money just shows how disconnected this guy is from reality. And I think from just the empathy that a pastor, a shepherd should show, because the primary people who he should be concerned about is the sheep. Like, he should have been concerned about the well-being of his flock. And in the way that this money was asked for, it was not the case. It was like, no, let's get back in the building. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do that. And it shows, man. It shows that this was just, there's something lacking in the ministry philosophy and how this dude approaches ministry, period. There's something lacking in there. And yes, he may be brilliant in a lot of other ways. We're not in his church to know all the ways that he does everything that he does. But in this sense, man, sometimes we just have a snapshot that shows you really how somebody really thinks and gives us a glimpse what's going on under the hood, right? So I think with this situation, that is what the world got to see. That's what the greater church got to see. And the fact that he says, look, we would have just cut off the cameras and done that, it still wouldn't have been good. It still wouldn't have been good for you to ask the church in that time for this money. So, so many ways in which he just does not see all the problems with the way this whole situation was addressed. And it's rather unfortunate, especially for the members of the church.
But then I woke up and said, 70% of our members don't attend the building. They're online. And the people online of our church have responded to that plea in a way that I cannot even quantify.
Amazing.
So here's where I finished off. A naysayer is somebody who's a small person that has something to say about big things. And I refuse to allow my ministry to be marked by the criticism of an unwarranted offense.
Yeah.
My heart was right.
Yeah.
It was pure. I just got to deal with the punches that people are throwing.
Yeah.
And so that guy who was scared and unsure and all that, he gone.
Yeah.
He gone. Because what God's about to do at 6650 Rankin Road and the rebuild process that he's about to take us through, and the way the members of the Lighthouse Church have responded, we had 120 people join Sunday.
Good grief.
So as long as I got them still trusting me,
Yeah.
I'm still on the wall like Nehemiah, man.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to watch.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to fight. Sometimes you got to pray. And I had to do all three in that. My heart was right.
No, that's great.
My heart was right.
And God is going to honor that.
So the fact that he thinks that those people who don't attend his church, 70% of them who are online watchers of the church, who he calls members, the fact that he thinks these people are members of his church shows that this guy doesn't know what a church is, that a church is a gathering. A church is not a remote group of individuals who click onto an online service and call that man their pastor. He's not their pastor. He's not their pastor. Now, can we just look at Lighthouse Church as a ministry that these folks are interested in and they're willing to give? Sure, look at them as that, but they're not your members. These people are not your members. That is, you're deceiving yourself if you think that these people are your members, because first of all, you would be accountable for their lives. If he's truly their pastor, he's accountable for their spiritual health and for doing the most to make sure that he does, to the best of his ability, what he can do to guide them in their spiritual walk. And there's no way that you could do that if somebody is a remote member who you have never met before. And then we see how he continues to use, what God is going to do in this time, And I mean, this kind of talk, man, just it's bothersome, it's troublesome. And, as we can see, it leads to all kinds of error. And he just thinks that, okay, if the church continues to grow, he gets his 120 people join the church, that this is success. Listen, numbers don't equate to success. Numbers of how big a church is has no correlation to the faithfulness of the ministry there. Because if that were the case, then all of these cultic groups that continue to grow, whether it's Jehovah's Witnesses or the LDS Church, all these groups that continue to grow, then we would have to say that God is blessing them. When we know that obviously that's not the case, because they don't even worship the God of the Bible. They have a God of their own making, but they have large numbers. And so if we default to start saying that numbers are the mark of faithfulness of a ministry, and numbers are actually the mark of God's blessing upon a ministry, then we are, sadly mistaken. Like, you are setting yourself up for disaster, and you are setting yourself up to be driven by these metrics, which mean nothing in the end, and which ultimately are not the thing that God is glorified by. So yet again, we see how Keion has handled this situation and how he continues to speak of it as though he is just an innocent victim in this whole thing, and that he did nothing wrong. And it shows a greater problem of how he views church, how he views his ministry, how he views money as well. He's got a lot of bad teachings about money that we will probably look at as, we do more content about him. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear from y'all. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. All right? God bless y'all, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.